BLUF Gaming here with a tutorial about landing on Earth in Space Engineers. Space Engineers is almost done, so I thought it'd be a good time to make a tutorial. If you're worried about crashing, like a lot of people do their first time landing on a planet, so long as your dampeners are turned on, you won't crash if you keep your ship level. If you see my reticule there in the middle, showing that we're about 6.5 kilometers in the sky, and then there's this flat bar that shows the horizon. Just keep your reticule close to the horizon, and as you enter thicker atmosphere, the ship will stop itself. That's what the dampeners mean. Dampeners are going to try to use your engines to stop you. You can see that my speed is quickly going down to 0, and eventually I will stop completely, and then we will not have crashed. So you need to find a place to settle. This ship does have an ore detector on it. So what you want to do, or what I recommend you do, is you find an ice lake. It looks like that, a flat area. If there's sun nearby, it'll be shiny. Find an ice lake somewhere on the planet and go right above it, maybe about 30 meters in altitude above the ice lake, so that your ore detector can detect deep down into the ice. Once you've done that, use GPS markers in the menu right here to mark whenever you find a group of resources. Groups of resources normally come in threes, so if you find some iron somewhere, keep looking around, and you should soon find 2 more resources nearby. If you're on an ice lake, then ice will be a 4th resource. So what I'm going to do is show you just what one of these looks like, so you know what to look for, and then if you need to see more detail, just watch the end of this tutorial. You can get all the resources on Earth except for platinum, so you want to look for those. And let's see, you want to find iron and uranium for your starting spot, I recommend. Wherever you're going to build your home base, iron and uranium are important. Nickel and silicon are also very important. After that, you have silver, gold, cobalt, and magnesium, which are also needed. Magnesium if you're going to be fighting. If you're not going to be fighting, you won't need magnesium, but all of them will be needed at some point if you want to get off the planet in style. You see these white markers that are appearing below me right now. It's showing ice. That's telling you, that's your ore detector telling you there's ice nearby. And if I get close to this GPS marker I've already made, you see there is silicon, magnesium, and somewhere there's going to be some uranium down there too. There we go. So once you've flown around and you've found all the different resources you need and you made GPS markers for them, choose a place where you want to settle. I recommend settling in a place with iron. That is the most important. Next most important is uranium. After that, silicon or nickel. You probably won't find all of them in the same place, but you might get lucky and find a place like I've called home right there, where you have iron and uranium together in one spot. You should be able to find pretty much everything within 2 kilometers of one spot, that we don't have to fly around too much. And if you want to see me go through that arduous process, just watch the rest of this tutorial and I will cover all of that. So that's your bottom line up front. Watch the rest of the tutorial if you want to see more detail, but I've gotten all the important bits out of the way. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for sticking around. If you're new to BLUF Gaming, BLUF stands for bottom line up front, and that means we get all of the most important parts of the tutorial out of the way right off the bat before the intro, and then after the intro we do a more detailed deep dive into how we got to whatever the tutorial was about. So without further ado, let's do just that and get a detailed view of how we chose our landing spot. And we're going to do a star system start. This way, this is the most common type of start you'll find online, and personally I prefer to play multiplayer games, and I assume you guys do as well, so I'll choose the method that they use in multiplayer. We're going to do a planetary lander start. That means starting on the Earth-like planet. It's probably the second easiest of the starts you can do. I think the easiest is starting with the respawn ship and doing a space start, but I prefer the challenge of starting in gravity, so we're going to do the planetary lander on Earth. Okay, right off the bat, just in case you're brand new to the game, I'm going to hit the letter V, which gives me an external view, and you see that my altitude is quickly going down, which makes you think we might crash. So I'm not touching the controls at all, and what you're going to see happen is that we're going to level off maybe around 4 kilometers, 3 kilometers, depends on whether or not we're above a mountain. But if you look in the bottom left, you'll see to the right of the speedometer, you'll see dampeners on and the letter Z above it. Our dampeners are on, which means the engines will try to make the ship stop. And as you can see, we are around 3.2 kilometers and now the ship has stopped. The reason it didn't stop before is because this ship only has atmospheric thrusters, meaning they require atmosphere in order to offer any type of propulsion, which also means you cannot use these in space. At higher altitudes, there is a more thin atmosphere, so they have less power. And as you can see here, they have enough power to get us to stop. Before I go looking for a location, you can see my O2 levels are running down slowly. We're at 94% right now. That's actually the levels in my suit, and we are in an oxygen-rich planet. So I'm going to hit J to turn off or to take off my helmet and just start breathing the air that's naturally here. If there was no oxygen for us to breathe, or not enough, we would start taking damage. Those other 3 indicators to the right of the J are X for your jetpack, which is on your suit. It's a very fast way of moving around when you're not in a ship. O is whether or not you're broadcasting. We can't turn that off right now because we're in the pilot seat, but if you get out of the pilot seat, you can turn broadcasting off, and that just determines whether or not you're sending your location out to people nearby. If you're trying to hide from people, turn that off. And then L is a flashlight. That controls the flashlight on your suit. It does not control any type of lights that you might have on your ship. So, on to what the tutorial is about. We're looking for a landing spot. A good landing spot where we could hopefully get all the materials we need and thrive. My preferred type of landing zone is on an ice lake, and I think I see one in the distance. One thing they have not added to Space Engineers is are liquids. There are no liquids in the game, but all the lakes on planets which have lakes are made of ice. So if you're landing on Earth, or if you see that green dot off there in the distance, that's the alien planet. Those two have ice lakes, and they're great for landing on. Now on Earth, it's not necessary that you land on them. Ice is a resource that you will need, and you can get it either from ice lakes, or you can see these snow-peaked mountains. Both the ice and the snow are perfectly fine ways of getting ice. I just find it's much easier to get it from an ice lake, and in addition to that, ice lakes are perfectly flat, which makes building your first base very easy. So I like to start there. Another nice thing about ice lakes is that they because they are perfectly flat, it's very easy to survey them and find the resources you need. On Earth, all of the resources that you need are available, except for platinum. Platinum is necessary for building some advanced components, including ion thrusters. So that means if you're on an Earth start, You shouldn't have any platinum, and you'll probably be stuck with using atmospheric thrusters and hydrogen thrusters to get off. Hydrogen you'll be able to get from ice, but it's not terribly important that you have the ice right away, but it will be later. So let's get down there to this ice lake. As you can see, I have pretty high speed right now. I need to slow that down. You have thrusters pointing on this ship in every direction except upward. There are none that can give you downward thrust. Any downward momentum you want to gain will be achieved by letting gravity do its job. If you need to make any quick maneuvers, this is not a very maneuverable ship, so you will have to use your large thrusters to do so. So if you want to accelerate forward quickly, you have to do this and then press spacebar to go up. But we're not trying to do that. We're actually trying to go slow right now. What we want to do, or what I like to do at least, is go down to around 30 meters. You see the indicator that there's ice below. Well, this ship, this starter planetary lander ship that's so commonly used in this game, it has an ore detector on it with a range of 150 meters. So I like to get about 30 meters off. It's somewhere around 15 or 20 meters where you actually contact the ground. Okay, sorry about that. I had a phone call come in. So I like to fly about 30 meters off the ground. Like I said, around 15 to 20 is generally where you'll contact, and you want to be close because sometimes these resources can be deep underground, and if you're flying around at 100 meters, you might not see something that is 100 meters below, because that would be a total of 200 away. Usually on Earth, you will find 3 resources altogether, not counting ice. It's a bonus on an ice lake. And what we want to have for our starting base, or what I find to be the easiest, is a place that has iron and uranium. Ideal would be iron, nickel, and uranium, but just iron and uranium is enough. Before I jump in this menu, let me tell you what I'm going to do. We'll be using uranium for power. You can also use solar power, but I prefer uranium with reactors. And just in case we don't find iron and uranium in the same spot, what I'm going to do is mark this area on my GPS from my current position. I'm going to click on it and change the name. If I remember correctly, this was iron, magnesium, and silicon. Let's take a look. Magnesium, silicon, and uranium, right. So it's been a long time since I took a chemistry class, so I don't remember the abbreviations for all of those. Uranium, sure. Silicon, sure. But magnesium, I can never remember that one because there's this other pesky element out there called manganese, and I don't remember which is which. So I just typed the names out a little bit. You can find some that if you type the names out all the way, you don't have enough room in the naming block. So I just sort of semi-abbreviate some of them. You can do what you please with those whenever you're tagging them. But I do suggest that you tag them because once we've found all of the resources that are available, you will want to be able to quickly go back to where they are, since they won't all be in the same place, and this way we don't have to go searching every time. So we won't find platinum, but what we are hoping to find are iron, nickel, silicon, cobalt, magnesium, silver, gold, and that might be everything. I don't remember if I said nickel, but that's one, and who knows, maybe I forgot another one. But we're looking for all of them. The most important in the early game are iron, nickel, and uranium, followed closely by silicon. Silver, gold, and cobalt you need, but you need to fly a little lower here. you need, but they're not as much of an immediate need as the others. And then magnesium, you might not need magnesium. It depends on whether or not you have enemies nearby. Sometimes there might be wolves, depending on the server you're playing on. There might be wolves running around Earth that you need to defend yourself against. And there might be other players or pirates or something. If that is the case, you'll need magnesium primarily for ammunition. So what I'm doing here is I'm flying around the edge of the ice lake in a clockwise fashion, hoping to find more deposits like this. There's magnesium here. Let's see what the other two are. Magnesium, silicone, and uranium. Man, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? But the other one was 2 kilometers away, so this is a different deposit. I will mark it anyway. And move from current position. Let's see. Just so they're a little bit different, I will call this one the same name with a 2 on the end. I will probably only need one of those two areas once we've found where we're going to settle. But who knows, maybe number 2 will be closer to where we settled than number 1, and we can always delete these GPS markers later. It used to be very easy to see where deposits were if you messed around with your graphics settings a bit, but I find that a little bit cheaty. I don't like to cheat. I like to do things by the book. This is an engineering and adventure game, in my opinion, and part of the adventure is finding the things. Uranium, cobalt, it's our third one. We got a third one, uranium, cobalt, and silver. Okay, so we're adding a few to our collection of known resource locations. This one was your, oops, let's see, new from current position. Uranium, silver, and cobalt. Good. We really want to find some iron, nickel, and gold right now. Lo and behold, iron has been found, iron and gold. So as you probably noticed, I cut out there for a while. I was getting tired of circling and running out of things to talk about. So I've just found iron, gold, and uranium together. Iron and uranium together is my ideal starting resources. Well, it could be significantly better. It could be, if this were on an ice lake, that would be better. And also if the gold were nickel, I would like that. Silicone would be better too. But we do eventually need gold, so I'm not going to complain. Just to give you an idea of how far we've gone, you see I have a lot of GPS markers between 1 and 3 kilometers away. Let's fly up and take a look. There's our ice lake. So I didn't go too far from the ice lake. So sorry I had to venture so long to find all the resources, but we have found them all. So let's get back down on the ground, mark this with a GPS marker, and get a base started. Now I am going to make almost identical tutorials to this one for Mars and one for the alien planet. Each one is slightly different in their own way, and I don't want somebody to have to watch this tutorial all the way to however far we've gotten at this point, just to hear me tell them what the differences are. So this is iron, gold, and uranium. And you know what? I'm gonna write home right here, because even though I don't like settling off of an ice lake, I'm gonna do it just because how much of a hassle it would be to have to travel back and forth for iron when that's the resource you use in the most abundance. Also, whatever your home GPS is, it's I recommend making it always visible. You don't have to, but I do. And then we can settle. Most people, including myself, will scrap the ship that we're in because they're worried it might be despawned by the server. Some servers have different rules than others, so I don't want to tell you what will or won't make it despawn. But yeah, there are plenty of materials in the ship that you can scavenge from to build a new base or a new ship or both. But there are not enough on this ship to get you into outer space. So you do need to start a mining project. I will cover that in the future, and if you have any requests for other tutorials for space engineers, let me know. And if I know how to do it, I will cover it. My plan is to cover a lot of different topics and ideas in small tutorials like this one. Hopefully this one didn't turn out too long, but at least the very beginning of this tutorial should be short. Again, this is BLUF Gaming. I appreciate you watching. If you want to like, subscribe, or comment, please do. If you want to dislike, I'll shed a tear off camera at some point. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.